You don't have to play a horror RPG to get a nice, spooky vibe from a game. Here are some areas in RPGs that really stick out as spooky that you may consider visiting if you need to feel the thrill. The town of Threed. Much of Earthbound is beautiful and brightly colored, particularly the first couple of towns that you go to. And then there's Threed. Threed is, appropriately, the third town Ness visits in Earthbound. You know, after Onett and Tucson, and you can get the idea, yuck yuck. And it is starkly different. Threed is home to a town of people who are desperately trying to deal with a zombie influx into their town. Threed was apparently a decent place, but suddenly the local graveyard has been coughing up the undead from their graves, and they've started harassing the locals. As players wander around town, they'll be attacked by the undead, including zombies and zombie dogs. There is an eerie music playing in the background, which is fitting for this place, and the color palette turns much, much darker than it was in the previous areas. The mini story of what's happening in Threed is a nice, surface-level spooky touch for this game. And what I mean is that Earthbound is unnerving to some degree for most of it. But this is basically a place where the spooks are surface level rather than subtle. Your time in this town is very limited, but discovering the cause of the zombies and helping the locals to solve their problems is an excellent spooky stepping stone for Earthbound. And it's one you're sure to enjoy if you've never played it before. It has the great aesthetic for Halloween fans and horror fans alike. You should try it out. Duskwood in World of Warcraft. Duskwood is a dark area in World of Warcraft with a very dark past. Situated in the middle of the Eastern Kingdoms, it's actually a bit of a blemish on the map. There is a distinctive change in the color and brightness of the world as you transition from Elwyn Forest into Duskwood. Once you cross that river, it's clear that you're in for some spooky times. This place almost feels like some sort of Halloween town, with the enemies in the area changing from the bears and the pigs of Elwyn to the spiders and undead and the wargs. The town is home to some very interesting folks, including Jitters, who is, he's seen some better days, let me tell you.
I kid you not, I have seen some shit.
As you follow Jitter's questline, you'll learn about the horrible things that have been happening in this area. But I don't want to spoil too much of the story, so I'll keep my mouth shut. Other quests will have you exterminating the threats to the town, and it is awesome. It's very neat to have the opportunity to protect Duskwood. It makes you feel very important here, as you are fighting these otherworldly supernatural threats. It's also very awesome to discover what happened to this once thriving and happy couple of towns, but again, it's also a very spooky journey. One thing is for certain, this place is dangerous. The monsters here are roaming the woods and the border, and the undead are lurking in the local graveyards. Large wolves are hiding behind trees, and there's ogres taking up residence in the south. And the fields and the caves they're littered with worgen. And to top it all off, there's this large, menacing foe that is just waiting to kill unknowing travelers. This place is no joke for a low-level character, but it's a heck of a lot of fun for those who are interested in spooky video games. I recognize in an MMO you can just grossly out-level these things and make the part easy, but don't do that. Go there when it is the appropriate level and experience it. Experience the tension for yourself. So visit Darkshire. World of Warcraft is free for the first few levels, and it's enough to get you close to Darkshire. And if you haven't played hardcore World of Warcraft yet, it's all the more terrifying knowing that just one wrong move will end your game. It's stressful, don't get me wrong, but man, it is a heck of a ride. Nibelheim, Final Fantasy VII. Look, Final Fantasy VII, it has its ups and it has its downs. It becomes a very hopeful game, but it has some very dark moments. And to be fair, it's often pretty bleak. While this bleakness does not necessarily equal spooky, there is definitely an area that feels particularly horror-inspired. This is the town that protagonists Tifa and Cloud grew up in, and in flashbacks in the beginning of Final Fantasy VII, it seems just like any other small town story. Some kids grew up here and just longed for more than they had in their small town setting, for more than the town could provide, and so they moved to the city. But some really messed up stuff took place in Nibelheim. Some sinister, wicked stuff. Let me sidetrack for a second. This makes sense. Scary things happen in odd places because that's the appropriate appropriate place for them. Witches in woods, that makes sense. Witches in cities, not as much. Where do the scary things happen? Well, they happen in the woods. They happen in remote locations. They happen in the tundra where there's not a lot of people. They happen in small towns like Derry, Maine, for example. Now, this stuff happens because it's the only place it could happen. If you want to hear more on that, let me know. I'd be happy to make a video about this sort of stuff. I love talking about story development. I could do an entire video on this stuff, but let's get back to the point. When Shinra, the mega corporation in the game, begins establishing Mako reactors, they chose the nearby Mount Nibel. This allowed them to get their power from the Shinra Corporation, and this causes the town to flourish. But in turn, monsters started to flourish on Mount Nibel. To go along with this added danger and the mystery as to why this was happening, Shinra had created a mansion in town as their headquarters, and the scientists there began some less than savory experiments. I can't go any further without the possibility of spoilers, right? But when you revisit this place in the future, there is a lot going on here that you get a major chunk of story. You get a major chunk of character development, and you get motivation for many major players in the game. It is certainly the most spooky part of Final Fantasy VII, and I would argue one of the best portions of the game. I would love to see a more detailed story for this because there's just so much potential there. I sincerely think this could be its own spin-off horror TV show or even a movie. Nibelheim, it's got a lot of potential. The Tower of Latria from Demon's Souls. Now, you all know that the Demon's Souls games rarely wear their lore on their sleeves, but this area, the prison in particular, doesn't even need the story to be scary. It is just freaking nerve-wracking from beginning to end. The official word is that this place is Latria, the land of the Queen's ivory tower. An old man took revenge on the Queen by locking her family in a prison with inhuman guards, and all that escapes the place are the prisoners' cries. Well, that's depressing, first of all.
Happy World Land, Happy World Land.
The PS3 and PS5 versions are both stellar, but the graphics in the PS5 version really help to enhance this. Demon's Souls, along with any other Souls game, isn't a walk in the park at any point, in difficulty or in cheerfulness. But this place is just surprisingly dark. And I'm not just talking about the lighting. The imprisoned here are the Queen's family. Apparently they've been imprisoned by her former husband, who has been lusting after this yellow garb. I mean, can't really blame him.
I love gold. The look of it, the taste of it, the smell of it.
But the tortures of these people, it's rough. There's always some prisoner just waiting to shank the crap out of you, which is a terrifying jump scare in itself. There's folks falling out of Iron Maidens, hanging in cages from the ceilings, trapped in giant jars. It's just, the death is everywhere. The desperation in this place is unreal. The life force of these people is being sucked out to power a giant heart in the middle of the tower, which feeds the old man in yellow. Yeah, nods to anyone who gets that King in Yellow reference there, right? And then the leftover flesh is used to craft new monsters. The story is dark, but again, it's just freaking creepy. And to top it all off, there's this singing. Ooh, the singing, the noise is just, oh. In this place of lost hope and despair, there is someone singing while you're battling these Cthulhu monsters and trying not to get your face sucked off. Oh, and you can easily just fall to your death in the prison. There's just, that's enough. It's enough. Just go enjoy this one for yourself. Whew. It's a nightmare. The Forever Forest in Paper Mario. First things first, a hermit dude warned you not to go into this famously scary forest, or infamously, or whatever. Once you assure him that you've been invited to the Boo's Mansion, nothing ominous there, right? He'll allow you through with some directions to pay close attention to your surroundings. It's clear when you enter the Forever Forest that things are different here than in the other parts of this game. The colors go muted and the sky goes black. The plants almost seem alive, and you'll be disturbed if you give them a shake. They smile back at you, like they have some kind of secret or something. This area feels a little hopeless as it is, but when you realize you're just walking in circles over and over, it really starts to get creepy. There's these little boogers that are jumping out of the bushes to get you. The trees in the background have these weird faces. It's all just a bit jarring after being in such a bright and colorful world before. When you follow this path, when you finish this path, you end up at Boo's Mansion. And Boo's Mansion is also foreboding.
Resident Evil.
This whole place gives off obvious haunted house vibes, with the mist, the green mist, and the candles everywhere. There's secret passages and secret walls, and there's creepy clocks and talking portraits.
This place has everything.
This place is clearly haunted by a bunch of boos. There's no guessing there, they just appear on the screen. And while they're not the scariest enemies in video gaming, as they just want to play some hide and seek sort of games, maybe some guess the cup sort of stuff, it's still a good time worthy of all the honor and praise that we give the spooky season, or whenever you just need a little scare. The scariest thing of everything, though, would be not discussing video games and giving them their due respect, because hey, gaming discourse is important, right? We should continue.